Hi, welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm your host, Jason Whitlock. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thursday to you and yours. Shemeka Michelle, Dre Baldwin will join me. We're going to talk about Pam Grier, Jasmine Crockett, Coco Gauff. They've had some interesting things to say about race. Monday was MLK Day, as you guys remember. And so everybody's talking about racism and lynchings and whatnot. I'm going to start, we'll just play these clips in succession. Pam Grier, Jasmine Crockett, the senator or congresswoman or whatever she is, and Coco Gauff, the tennis star. Just play those three clips back to back to back.
You faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, Ohio. How did that shape you?
Whew. Well, the military wouldn't allow black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there was someone hanging from a tree. And they have a memorial for it now where you can see where people were and left. And it triggers me today to see that a voice can be silenced. And if a white family supported a black, they're gonna get burned down or killed or lynched as well.
Yeah.
Pam, you've done too many extraordinary things to highlight, but I do want to mention one.
They not even going, honestly, they're about to outlaw the idea of white supremacy and white hate. Like, they are about to be like, oh, that's not a thing. Forget the fact that you're talking about getting rid of like the classification for nooses in a time in which we have seen these random black bodies be strung up down south. Also, seemingly at a time in which you're back in office, because what you do is you embolden the hate. You embolden everybody to take off their hoods. That is what he has done. He is the one that is producing this violence.
Hi, Coco. Congrats. This is a bit of a heavier question to start, but you're usually pretty outspoken about political issues, and I'm curious how you feel about the state of the U.S. 1 year into the second Trump administration.
I mean, I think I've already stated my opinions in the past on how I feel about it. And yeah, I mean, I've hoped forward that we can have a lot more peace in our country and more kindness when the way we speak to each other about different topics and things like that. But yeah, obviously I've been pretty vocal about how I felt, and yeah, I don't feel at this point, I feel a bit fatigued talking about it just because of the fact that it is hard also, I think, being a black woman in this country and having to experience things even online and seeing your marginalized communities being affected and knowing that I can only really donate and speak out, and I try my best to do that. But yeah, I just hope that as time continues that we can reach a state where we're not currently in and we keep moving forward. I posted that video of Martin Luther King yesterday, and that was kind of saying that we must keep moving forward even though things may not be as calm as I would like it to be right now.
Okay.
Is that reporter is not just asking black athletes at these tennis deals about, how are things in the year under Trump. Just saw he asked a white tennis player who basically wouldn't take the bait and basically dismissed the guy. And so our conversation today, and I mean this sincerely, not to be a provocateur, not to be sensational, but it's like when I see Pam Grier, Jasmine Crockett, Coco Gauff, and then particularly when I see the Pam Grier deal, and there's 4 or 5 other women sitting around there. There's the audience gasping, and I mean, I had a bunch of initial thoughts when the Pam Grier was just like, "Hey man, we gotta these all-female talk shows where no one pushes back against delusion, the truth is irrelevant, everything's emotional, everything's just say whatever you want, and we got to live with your delusion. We got to get this stuff off air because it's radicalizing this delusion that women live under, this delusion that black women live under. We just can't let that poison just spread everywhere to where we're having these types of conversations that we're taking seriously. I think Pam Grier is 76 years old. That means she was born around 1950. The last documented lynching, I believe, in Ohio was 1911. Lynching just hasn't been a thing since the 1920s or 30s. And this will be real controversial, but and my great-grandfather was nearly lynched in Kentucky, but I'm standing on this and saying that this whole lynching thing completely exaggerated. Completely exaggerated. It just like police shootings, completely exaggerated. And that everybody that lives in the black community in the inner city or what so-called ghetto, they're not, oh, the police, they're coming to get me and they're going to kill me. No, if you're going to die violently in the black community, a black person is more than likely going to be the person to do it. And so you don't sit around like, oh, I'm in fear of the police. And here's the reality. And this is a very uncomfortable truth because there's been so much propaganda around it. But when you're black, when we black people in the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, they weren't sitting around living in fear. Oh, the KKK is coming and they're going to kill me. Yes, did it happen occasionally? Yes. No different than very occasionally the police kill someone in the black community unfairly. But if you're going to die violently in any community, it's going to be someone that lives in your community that does it. And so this whole hyped up history that's been planted on us that, oh, things were so bad in the 1950s and the 40s and that just black people just walked around in fear. And as a baby, I had to shield my eyes. If I had been in that audience when Pam Grier said that, I would have shouted out, that's a lie. I literally would have shouted out, that's a lie. And they would have had to probably escort me out of there for shouting. But none of those women, again, someone said, that would be, I wonder if I went on The View and said, yeah, I'm 185 pounds. Would anybody stop and say, hey, man, that's a lie? You sure about that? You sure you're not 186, Whitlock? But again, you get around a group of women and they confirm each other's delusion. They confirm each other's delusion, and particularly everybody's into confirming a black woman's delusion. And this is where I'll bring Shemeka and Dre into the conversation, but it's confirming the delusion of black women is one of the saddest things I think I've seen. And there is a problem clearly with black women. They don't like themselves. They don't like their hair. They don't, and so they just live in a delusional state and say delusional things and pretend like it's not their own self-hatred that's the problem. And this is what, like Jasmine Crockett, it's all this white racism is out there, and there are people still getting lynched, and Trump has brought it back. There's a serious mental crisis among black women. I know I'm being hyperbolic and Jason hates black women. It's not true. I'm sincere concern about their sanity is what I have. Shemeka, right, wrong, stupid, what?
No, Jason, you said a couple things that I noticed off the top as well. Number one, none of these women seem to like their own hair. Let's start there. So I do think that there is a hate, and I say it all the time. Nobody hates black hair more than black women, although it's always the finger pointed that they're not accepted with their natural hair. And I just think that's a complete lie just because of my own lived experience. But yes, I do think there's a delusion with black women. And I also think that black women are particularly put at the front of the line or to be the face of these lies because it's already understood that you can't correct them. We've even heard the term, don't question a black woman or don't correct a black woman. I know there have been many times that I've had sincere, genuine criticism about behavior, and it's been met with, how dare you say something about another black woman. So there is this, we know this thought that you cannot correct black women. So it's easy for them to get on national television or sit in Congress and say whatever because they're protected. And as much as they say there's nobody more unprotected than the black woman, that's just a lie in today's time. They are the most protected, so they can do whatever, say whatever, and get away with it. Nobody is going to push back, which is why I believe they are always the face of anything we want to push. When I first saw Pam Grier, her comment, I initially was very upset. And then I thought to myself, should I have some type of empathy? Because it must be hard to just be able to go somewhere and show your titties and get attention and then look as if you ate Foxy Brown and have to actually have some type of intellectual train of thought. Maybe it's hard for her now, but I do recognize she was a bad actress then. She's a bad actress now. And the only thing that saved her, nobody cares about anymore. But that is why people don't push back on black women. They can't be corrected.
So, Dre, the Pam Grier conversation started out with this question, and this is the first thing that annoyed me, was Sonny Holston, well, you grew up in the 1950s in Ohio, and you faced a lot of racism. How did that shape you? As if the defining thing in her development was not her parents, wasn't the church she grew up in, wasn't her aunts and uncles and cousins. It was like racism had this outsized influence in Pam Grier's life. And the whole conversation is, how did racism change your life or shape you? And it's almost like Pam Grier was going, yep, that's why I started overeating, because racism shaped me into this Jason Whitlock type figure as a one. But the whole narrative that white people are the greatest influence over black people and how white people feel about black people is the greatest influence, and it shapes our worldview and life. It's kind of accepted, and it's kind of, and I know I'm saying a lot here and I want to narrow it down to a question, but just your thoughts on the shaping of that, and just like, can black women and or black people recover from the mental programming that has been done to us?
Well, a few things. First of all, Jason, the show is called The View, and it's not views, plural. It's The View. They have one view, and there's one view that you're allowed to have on that show, which is why they set her up with that question. And if you're trying to play along with the hosts, so to speak, then you're going to answer the question by coming up with something that speaks to racism, because they're leading her with the question. And obviously she wants to play along with it. The biggest thing, I know the conversation is about the black women in the black community. I put the onus on the man, because God put man in charge. And if a woman is not doing her job, that's because a man is not doing his job. So in the black community, you hear it from men, prominent men in the black community all the time. They say things to prop up the female, or they'll say the black woman is the most not protected or the least respected. There was the mayor of Baltimore, the young guy. He was saying that we don't deserve black women. And men who get into prominent roles, black men, like to say that. I don't know if they say it because they believe it, but they say it because it gets a round of applause. This gets you a lot of applause on social media. It gets you a lot of applause in the community. And you seem like you're...
Let's keep it real. It keeps you viable sexually with black women. That's
that also,
the other motivation.
yes, and it gets you a lot of positive attention. And at the same time, when it comes to the things that a woman says that may be delusional or it sounds kind of crazy, like what these clips that you pointed out, these are things that a lot of black people buy into. A lot of black people believe these things. Like, there's been all this racism, there's all these lynchings. I saw someone on X yesterday say, well, when someone pointed out, hey, there hasn't been a lynching there in over 100 years, they said, well, they just don't call it that anymore. So it still happens. They just don't call it that anymore, or it doesn't get pointed out, or it doesn't come out in the media. And I'm like, well, you could say that about pretty much anything. You could say anything is happening and they're not calling it out. It's not in the media. So therefore, just because I assert it, that makes it true. It becomes a circular argument. And this is really where I think black people in general are. And the women wouldn't be saying the things that they're saying and getting the attention that they're getting, Jason, if men did not okay it. I put this on the man.
Can we recover? Is there a path forward or back, or can we recover from this?
Absolutely. The first step is that the men, and what I have been saying about men for years, is they need to put their balls back on. And in saying that, what I mean is a man has to be willing to say to a woman, what you're saying doesn't make sense. This is delusional. That's not factual. It's not objective. It's not logical. Stop saying that. And I'll stand here in front of this panel of women. Let's say, like you said, if you were on The View, if you were to say, hey, what she's saying is nonsense, well, you know they're going to attack you. Are you willing to stand on it? Are you willing to stand on your 2 feet and defend yourself against the firing squad of these women, black and white, who are going to go against you because you're saying something that the black people in general, men and women, are saying, and you're going to go against the grain? You even get white people who are on the left who will tell you that you're wrong because you're black, saying the thing that black people are not supposed to say, or going against the thing that black people are supposed to agree with. So the first step is the man in the black community has to be willing to say in front of an audience of whoever that, no, we're not going to say this. We're not going to play this victim role. And we need to stand on our own 2 feet and actually talk about what's objective, what's logical, and what's true, not just saying things that satisfy us emotionally. That's where it starts.
Shemeka, I hear Dre saying confidently, yes, it is fixable. I have to agree with him. I think he's factually right, but I'm not as optimistic and just keeping it real. And it's because I look at the black mother has been put on a pedestal that, and you go all the way back to my childhood, don't nobody crack a yo mama joke. If you joke about someone's mother, the other person must be willing to defend her honor and die over a joke and blah blah blah. And that's just a symbol of like the mindset of don't question your mother. And then in the black community, because all of these women are biblically uncovered, black people aren't getting married, the divorce rate's astronomical, the single mother deal. That's when I look at Pam Grier, I was like, clearly she has no man she has to answer to. She's uncovered. And Whoopi Goldberg, uncovered. Sonny Holston is married, but her man's balls ain't big enough to carry her, to cover her. Obviously, she's uncovered. She's the boss in that relationship. This to me is years and years and years of single motherhood, and it produces a delusion among women.
I agree, Jason. Everything that Dre said was they were facts, but I'm not as optimistic either because I can say, or I see that there have been a lot of men that have been whipped into submission by the black woman. It's very hard for some of them to even see any type of logic because they've been taught to lean so much on emotion. So it would be hard for them to correct a woman and say, hey, you are leaning on your feelings opposed to facts, because they lean more on their feelings now opposed to facts. Everything is about feeling now. We can see that. We see so many people saying, I don't see anything wrong with counseling at all, but that's kind of what we're pushing. We're just pushing more softness. You get more points if you're soft as a man and you're in touch with your feminine side. These are the things that we're pushing on men, and they are buying into it hook, line, and sinker. So many of them that they don't even realize when they aren't being logical. So they can't really say, hey, and shake us as a woman and say, you're being illogical, because they begin to see things from a very feminine point of view. And so that's why I'm not optimistic, because I don't think many women are going to say, hey, I'm tired of being in charge. I'm tired of being the leader. We hear that when it comes to paying bills. They don't want responsibility, but they also don't want accountability. So it's like, they're not going to just raise their hands and say, I want to be feminine. I want to be in the role that God has created me to be in. Let me take a step back. Man, you step up. I'm not seeing women do that. And I'm not seeing men be as firm and stern as they need to be, because they have bought into the idea that they need to be more in touch with their feminine side.
And I'm going to ask you a follow-up. Luke, while I'm doing this, and Peyton, there's a woman, a tennis player, Amanda Asanova. Pull that clip of her answering the question. I'm going to play that for Dre. Let's see if we can pull that while I ask Shemeka. Shemeka, again, you said you're not against therapy. Neither am I. But all the therapy, it seems like the therapy movement has been overtaken by women. Overtaken by secular women. And so when people go get counseling, they're sitting in front of a woman who shares their worldview, who's secular. None of it is biblical therapy. And again, when you think about the failure of the church and the disconnect from the church, it's like these women need to be sitting in front of elder men, pastors, getting their worldview feedback. But I've heard too many men that I know have complained. They've gone through marriage counseling and they end up sitting in front of a woman with their wife, and this woman is the mediator, and they lose virtually every time. And if they sit in front of a male counselor, half a chance he's gay. He's certainly matriarchal, and so they're not getting good advice. That's the problem.
That's absolutely the problem, Jason. I think most counselors, I would say, are young, liberal, white women. And then if you happen to get a black woman, she's more liberal. If you happen to get a man, he is he's been whipped into submission. I know this from my own experience, from just getting my children into counseling. We started out with a counselor who would go in and all she wanted to talk about was my daughter's feelings. Nothing was logical. She would even say, hey, pull a card. It was a tarot card. I said, oh, that's not the one. And then when we finally came across a black man, he was very feminine. He was, pushing for Kamala to be in charge. And I'm like, gosh, it's really, and this is after going through several therapists. And so it's really hard to find someone that you can actually depend on to help you see things clearly when they aren't seeing things clear themselves. I think there is an issue with the population of counselors that are doing more harm than good.
Dre, I want to play for you the clip of the white woman who got asked basically the same question by the same reporter as Coco Gauff, but she's free to give a different answer, and she did. Let's play the clip.
Hey, Amanda. Congratulations on the win. I've been asking a lot of the American players just how it feels to play under the American flag right now, and I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah, I was born in America, so I'm always proud to represent my country. And yeah, a lot of us are doing really well, and it's great to see a lot of, great athletes on the women's side, on the men's side. So yeah, I feel like we're all doing a great job representing ourselves.
And sorry, do you mind if I follow up?
Sure.
Sorry, just to clarify a little, sort of in the context of the last year of everything that's been happening in the U.S. Does that complicate that feeling at all?
I don't think that's relevant.
Hey Amanda, well played. One of the unique things about tennis is
So there's the feminized reporter who's like some feminized therapist. Amanda, you have an opportunity to criticize the United States under Donald Trump. Would you take that opportunity to criticize? Things are different now with Donald Trump. And I got to give this white woman credit. And you know, people can hate me all they want, but I look at Coco Gauff making millions of dollars. Whoever this Amanda woman is, probably making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They got two totally different worldviews about what's going on in America. The white woman who's making less than Coco Gauff, I would imagine. This Amanda's not some super high-rated player like Coco Gauff, I don't think. But she's optimistic and sees the world going one way. Coco Gauff is boxed in despite making millions of dollars, despite having opportunities that her ancestors would not have had. Yeah, it's just terrible. Donald Trump's in office and I can't breathe. Anyway, just, I don't even have a question, Dre, just your reaction.
A couple of things. First of all, with that, the person who asked the question, I don't know if they are called reporters or journalists these days. Hopefully he's not a journalist, because that wasn't a journalistic question, because he didn't really ask anything. He just said, with everything that's been going on in the last year. If I was the player, I would say, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the weather? Are you talking about politics? What are you referring to? He didn't even say what he was actually trying to pull out of her, which is good for her to not take the bait and just talk about, I guess, what Coco Gauff was referring to. Now, as far as Coco Gauff goes, I know you say that she has millions, she has access to all these opportunities. Well, we have to put an asterisk next to that, Jason, because she has those millions and those opportunities because she will say those types of things, in addition to having talent and winning tennis tournaments. If she was winning and doing all the things that she does, and she was talking like you or talking like Shemeka, do you think she would have the same level of millions? I don't think so. I think she would begrudgingly still get her trophies in her purses. I don't think she would get the same media opportunities. I don't think she would be as well known and not well known, but well liked and accepted in the same circles in which she's accepted based on what answers she did give. She didn't really say anything. It was really just a word salad of kind of like woke Mad Libs is what she did. She didn't say anything, but she said enough that everybody knows where she stands. And that's enough to appease the people who can help her with a few extra $1 million that she didn't earn literally from playing tennis. As far as the overall here, that the white woman who was asked the question, I don't think most people outside of America who are not, especially if they're not plugged in politically and they're not plugged into the circles that Coco can get plugged into because she says the quote unquote right things as a black player, and especially a well-known black player, I don't think they pay attention to this type of stuff, because if you're not really looking for it, the things that are happening politically, it's not like it's a war. This is not like these are things that are jumping out at you unless you're looking, paying attention, dialed in, and engaged in a conversation. There's nothing happening politically, if it's not at our doorstep, that you actually need to know about. If you're going to work every day, doing your job, raising your kids, living your life, there's nothing happening that's jumping out at the everyday person who's not plugged in. So I understand why that girl didn't say anything. And Coco could have chosen to not say anything, but that will come at a cost. And there is a cost to it once you become that known, especially when you're one of a few who's black in that space.
Dre, this isn't a loaded question because I don't know. We haven't met personally, and so this is a very difficult question I'm gonna ask you. But you know, I'm treating you like you're Shemeka. I know you're good, but I look at that example, Coco Gauff, this Amanda woman. I think if we put them up side by side, I'd sit there and go, they're both of equal attractiveness. But once Coco Gauff opens her mouth and starts talking, she becomes very unattractive to me, and I think to any man in his right mind. It's like, man, this woman sees problems around every corner. She's miserable despite all the success she's having. And then I look at the white woman, she opens her mouth and says things that I believe in. Like, man, I'm blessed to live in this country. I love this country, blah, blah, blah. And if black women really wanted to understand why they can't get any momentum going the right way. It's their attitude. And as long as you carry that I'm a victim and the world's out to get me attitude, the Coco Gauff, you're far less likely to find a man, have a successful relationship with a man, and you're just, it just is what it is. People, I get heat. A lot of guys get heat. You like white women more than you like black women, and it simply all comes down to attitude. It's just simply about the black women have the wrong attitude for a relationship.
I would say that with Coco, let's say she did have something to say about politics and she had something to say, like something of actual substance that she had thought out, even if it was way to the left. If she had something of substance to say and I said, okay, I haven't thought about it that way or looked at it that way, or I can tell she's thought about it, I would be fine with that, even if I disagreed with it. If she was saying something, what she said was a whole bunch of nothing. It was kind of like just waving the flag, letting everybody know, like, hey, I'm still over here. That's the part that I didn't like about it. It wasn't so much that whether she has an opinion or doesn't. Generally speaking, a lot of athletes get the mic thrown in their faces, talk about this social issue on which most of them don't know anything, don't think about it. They don't look at this stuff because they're doing their jobs, but they're getting asked to talk about it. And most of them don't have the gumption to just say, listen, I don't want to talk about it. The Republicans buy sneakers too. Nobody wants to say that. Everybody wants to feel like they're saying something, even though they're saying nothing. I wouldn't have a problem with her saying something. She has something of substance to say. The white woman saying nothing because she had nothing to say, that I can respect and appreciate. So on that point, I agree with what you're saying, but I wouldn't have a problem with the woman having an opinion if it has some substance to it.
Shemeka, am I a bad guy for, I want a woman that agrees with me on virtually everything. And I really don't want to be disagreed with at home. On this show, out in in the workforce and all that, but at home, who wants to be disagreed with? Particularly when you're paying all the bills. I'm just keeping it real here. Am I right or wrong? My contention.
I don't think you're wrong for what you want. I just don't know if that's realistic, because I don't know if you're going to get someone who agrees with you 100% of the time. You may be able to pay all of the bills and get a woman who pretends like she's agreeing with you 100% of the time. But I don't know if it's reality that she actually will be agreeing with you. I would like someone, I understand where you're coming from, because I think most people want to get with people that they have things in common with. I would never, ever in a million years be with a man who feels like women should be in charge. So I think that for the most part, we all want people that agree with us for the main issues. And if we disagree, I'm like Dre, if you have an argument that I'm saying to myself, okay, I just didn't look at it that way, I can learn from anyone, but I don't think it's reality that someone will agree with me 100% of the time, or that I'll agree with them. I'm just not. My brain sometimes moves 100 miles an hour, or just thinks about things that nobody else probably would think about. So we're not going to agree all the time.
Let me clarify my position. You're forcing me to give it deeper thought. Because, see, I don't have an opinion on everything. I really don't. I really, really don't. Most things I don't care anything about. And so the things that I don't care anything about, and that's most things, I couldn't care less what she thinks. I couldn't care less what she does. I couldn't care less. Oh, you want to go to dinner here? No problem. You want to do it? No problem. But the things that I actually care about, I want her to agree with me on those things. And it's not very many things, but it's enough that when you don't, when you don't agree with me on, abortion, male leadership.
Important things.
Important.
Yeah.
We got a problem. But the overwhelming majority, what type of carpet or wallpaper or furniture or, Anyway, this is just me going through my therapy session with. Let me let y'all go. Thank you so much. Great job. I'm not as, maybe I am as big an idiot as y'all think I am. I shouldn't be saying the things that I'm saying. It makes me look bad, but I'm just keeping it real because no one else will. Thank you for tuning in to the Harmony Channel. We'll see you next time.
How did we end up so divided? Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God, let your light shine down. What we need more than anything now. Harmony. Let's make a simple vow. Let's come together now. Harmony. Put all your weapons down. Love one another now. Harmony. Time for us to wait.